Yo, so this video is kind of a repeat of a video I made last year that went super viral. I'm not making this in hopes to go super viral. I would like it to go super viral so it helps a lot more people. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. If you're watching this and you watch it all the way through and it helps you, it's good. I get a lot of not a lot of messages. I get some messages through my Facebook business page and Instagram like, hey, I saw your videos on the cheap harness, whatever videos I put out there to help you guys do a basic cheap swap. And like, hey, I got to run in, driving, and I followed your videos and I got it all done myself, and I've never done a car before, blah, blah. It's great hearing that because that was the whole reason I started this YouTube channel. Wasn't supposed to be LS specific, like I've said in many videos, but it turned out to be LS specific, and I only started making these videos to help people out that do their stuff either in the driveway, in the garage, in the grass, in the dirt. I've done them everywhere. Or maybe you're doing life right and you got you a nice shop with a lift and living the dream. But this guide is going to be this is going to be strictly for beginners, strictly for the people that want to do an LS swap, don't want to pay somebody to do it, and they're kind of iffy on doing it because they hear online, it costs 10 grand, 15, 12, 18, 20, numbers are all over the place for how much it costs. It 100% can cost 20 grand. It can cost 5 grand. This swap in my CUDA cost me about 2,500. It is strictly dependent on how resourceful you are yourself, getting used parts, using cheap parts, and your wants, goals, and needs. Let's start with my CUDA as the perfect example. Oh, I put this out there. We got new stickers. Go grab a sticker. It'll be on the website in the description. But my CUDA is always my example in my videos because it is basically the epitome of the channel doing cheap stuff. Is just getting it in there, getting it running, drive it. This is my daily driver, but it hasn't been for about a week now because it's got a flat tire. And I'm redoing the whole front suspension, and this thing eats up tires like no other. So I'm really not trying to buy a third set of tires in a year before I do the front suspension, so that I don't have to buy a fourth when I do the suspension. But anyways, this is for y'all that are new here, just watching this for the first time. This is a junkyard I got this 4.8 from the salvage yard as a long block. The transmission I spent $200 on. I had no intentions of it. Why is it getting so dark in here? Let's turn the light on. I had no damn. Appreciate it. I had no intentions of that 4L60 being any good because it was only $200, but thankfully the seller was 100% honest. So there are some things here and there where, it might be best to just spend more money on it up front, but for the most part, the stuff to get it bolted in should be cheap. Your cooling system should be cheap because LS's, the way they're built, their cooling system is great already internally. So it's not like an old school big block, small block, or old school car in general where you want the 4-core radiator with the biggest fans and shroud you can put on it. As you can tell, no shroud. That is a cheap Summit fan, electric fan, and that is a cheap Amazon radiator. And here in Texas, and it's 91 today, and it's gonna be 68 tomorrow. That makes a lot of sense. But here in Texas, I drive this during the summer, and at stoplights, stop signs, or drive-throughs, I've pushed maybe right at 200 degrees, but that was only when I'm sitting like in a drive-through waiting for the people in front of me, and I'm sitting for like 10, 15 minutes. As soon as I start driving, my temp drops down to 183 degrees, which I have videos of. And, it's great. I've had absolutely zero issues with this. I've been daily driving it it'll be 2 years in next month, actually. Yeah, March. It'll be 2 years next month. So I'm about $2,800 into this running driving swap. But once again, it is strictly dependent on your wants, needs, and goals for the car. If you want 1,000 horsepower, there's no cheap route unless you can fab up a turbo and do all the fab work yourself. And obviously you can go that route. There's Google, ls1tech.com, and Sloppy Mechanics. And there's plenty of people out there that have done that stuff cheap. But for beginners, obviously, it's probably not going to happen. So I advocate for just basic, and that means no cam, no power adder, no nothing. You take a bone stock 5.3 or 4, that's a 5.3, or a 4.8, or a 6.0 if you can grab one. That's the one you really want, because you can build those pretty well. But you want to find you whatever's cheap, and for a beginner, I would 100% get one that's runs. That way, because if you don't, you're gonna be in the Facebook groups. I see it every day, about 100 times a day. They're like, people are spending $3,000 at the machine shop to rebuild a 5.3. That makes no sense. Then they put a Truck Norris cam in it, which is cool, but just building a 5.3 or 4.8 naturally aspirated, you're gonna make a whopping 310 horsepower to the tire maybe, and you're gonna spend $4,000 doing it. That's if you're rebuilding the engine. I just don't see the point, but everybody, if that's what you want to do, that's what you do. It's not my money, it's not my car, I don't care. I'm just here to help the beginners out, to let you guys know that it does not have to cost that much. What you do is you go wherever you need to. You get you a running 5.3 or 4.8 Gen 3, so late 99 to very early 07. Yes, in 05, 06, and 07, your Trailblazers come with the aluminum 5.3 that's an L33, and it has Gen 4 internals and AFM and blah, 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 blah. But don't worry about that, because the chances you finding that are very rare. Or you go on Marketplace or Craigslist and you get you one of those bad boys running and driving, I would assume, depending on where you're at, for cheap, and you just pull the engine, transmission, and you scrap the rest. That is probably the cheapest way to do that, because you get some money back. Here in Texas, it's hard to get those cheap because everything in Texas is stupid expensive now, including 5.3s and just everything LS related. But if you live up north and where those bad boys rust out and you can get those for next to nothing, that is what you do. You find you one of those running and driving, you drive it home, flinging rust everywhere, pull the engine, transmission, and put in whatever you do. And now you got to understand, you can't get you a CUDA. You can't get you a CUDA and think you're going to do it cheap. You got to get you an old Chevy, 2-door, 4-door, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s. The easiest swaps to do are 60s Chevelles, 70s Camaros, Trans Ams, literally any Chevy from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then 90s. C10s throughout all the years are one of the easiest swaps to do. There's so much room. Novas and Camaros and Firebirds of the late 60s, very, very early 70s, the X body, those aren't hard to do. There's just a little less space. Corvettes, I've never done one, so I can't tell you. I really have no interest in doing one. Oh, I was going to walk you back, but I have a 79 Camaro in the backyard that is getting this LS, and I have here, after I finish this Corvette, this will be going in that 79 Camaro with that transmission. I spent $500 on this setup. I'm very, very, very hesitant to put that in, but I'm going to, because the chances of that 4L60 being any good are very likely. But I had good luck with that one, so maybe I'll get lucky again, but probably not. So find you a Gen 3, 4.8, 5.3, 6.0 if you can get one cheap enough. It has to be Gen 3. Gen 4 is more expensive. Just if you see a Gen 5, which is an LT, which is direct injection from 2014 to now, don't even pay those any attention. Stay completely away from those. They're nightmares. They're stupid expensive for aftermarket parts, and there's a reason you see them for cheap when they're for sale. It's because nobody wants to mess with them. There are people that will mess with them, but they have deep pockets to where they can mess with them. If you want to go that route, have fun. But when you get there, don't say I didn't warn you. So get you a 5.3, 4.8, 6.0. Most of the Chevys will fit the stock truck intake on it. So keep that if you can. If you can, find you a cheap LS1 intake, because everybody talks trash about them because, oh, they don't flow as good, blah, blah, blah. I know, we get it. You're making 250 horsepower to the crank and you're telling people about intakes that flow 0.5% worse or better. We know. Yeah, you know it all. But get you what you got. Use what you got. Get you a cheap Amazon or eBay harness. They're stupid cheap. Get you an eBay ready to go ECU. By ready to go, I mean it has the basic stuff deleted out of it so that you can plug it in, run your power, hook up your harness, and get it running. I have videos on it. All the swaps I've done, except for 2, have had an Amazon or eBay harness. I've never had an issue with one. So if anybody on the internet tells you that you have to repin them or blah, 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 you can believe them if you want, but I have proof that you don't. Then you get some cheap swap plates, bolt your existing engine mounts onto those swap plates and bolt it right back into the vehicle. Accessories is 100% up to you. This car, obviously being a little bit smaller engine bay and stuff, I couldn't use the stock truck accessories because it just sat too high. But I was able to fit the truck intake under it, so it might have fit. But I personally just wanted to clean it up a little bit, so I spent $700 on this accessory bracket setup from ICT. That included me buying the alternator and the power steering pump and the pulley and the belt and the water pump. But on the Camaro, on that engine, I'm putting everything that came with it, the truck water pump, the truck accessories, the truck intake. I'm putting it all under there and doing that swap as cheap as possible. The only place I'm going to say don't cheap out because you can and I say don't cheap out because it's going to make life a lot easier for you, is when you do the fuel pump, go to Holley.com and get you a Holley retrofit in-tank pump. I actually have one right here for the Camaro. It wasn't cheap. They're $400 and whoa, be careful. Don't cut it towards yourself. I mean, you're safe, but let me, come on. Get out of there. Golly, is there enough in there? Come, it just keeps going. Get skedaddle. Ay, ay, ay. All I want to do is get to the fuel pump. Come on. Come on. Come on. We'll get there eventually. Okay. Okay. All right. Here we are. So this is the Holley retrofit in-tank pump. It is designed to go into your stock fuel tank the same exact way your sending unit does. So you take your old sending unit out, you drop this in, and you put the lock ring on, and that's it. You hook up. It comes with the other side. But you hook up your harness, you wire your harness in. It's very simple. Purple is fuel level sender. Gray is power. Black is negative, full black is to negative post to battery. Black and white is to ground on the chassis somewhere. And that's it. I have it in this. I've been running it for 2 years. 0 issues. It's quiet in the tank, as where you can run an external fuel pump. A lot of people do. They're super loud, and the chances of them burning up outside of the tank are very likely. but you know, it works. That's $430. But I promise you, it'll be money well spent. It'll save you a lot of hassle. This car has 100% rubber EFI line front to back. On all the other swaps I do, they get PTFE line from Amazon, which is like $110 for the whole kit to do the whole car. So get you Amazon fuel line, get you Amazon swap plates, get you an Amazon harness, get you trans cooler. I use the derail trans cooler from Amazon. It's $175. It is a double pass. Let's put you back in there. Double pass trans cooler. That is amazing. It comes with a small fan. I've yet to use the small fan on any swap, because if you put it where it gets constant airflow like that, it's amazing. The transmission temps in this, even in the summer, are 50, sometimes a little bit more than that, 50 degrees less than what the engine temp is. I am not a fan of running your transmission lines to the radiator, because that just means that whatever temperature your coolant's at, that means your transmission's at. 4L60s do not like hot temperatures. The only way they last is if you don't tow 15,000 pounds every day, and if you keep them nice and cool. But even then, they'll probably still give you all neutrals. But we've been lucky enough with this one, so it's not gonna win. Aside from that, that's it. It's just, this is a guide for, maybe I 100% understand you guys that are like, oh, if you're gonna do it right the first time so you don't have to do it again, or just don't do it at all if you're not gonna do it right, or right. I hate that term, do it right. If it works, it's right. That's how I look at it. It works, it's right. So but like I said, if you want it nice and pretty, if you want a brand new engine, if you want a brand new transmission, if you want $1,800 Holley Terminator setup, if you want the Holley mid-mount accessory drive kit, you can go balls to the wall with it. You could spend 20 grand on a swap if you want to. Or if you're very resourceful, you use all used parts, you yourself could do it for 25, 3,000. Just completely depends on your wants and needs and how much you spend on an engine and transmission up front. That'll be your biggest factor in prices. If you spend $500 up front, oh, hold on. Sorry, FedEx guy dropped off package. But your total cost, and I've said it a million times in other videos, will depend on how much you spend for an engine and transmission up front. This engine was $850 in the long block, which is insane. Was $850 from the salvage yard, and my transmission was $200. So there gives you my starting point. That's together, it's $500, and so that gives you the starting point. If you got to buy a new transmission, obviously it's going to be more. If you want a brand new engine, it's going to be more. If you want a rebuilt engine, it's going to be more. If you want a rebuilt transmission, it's going to be more. There's so many factors. So the easiest way to do it cheap is be very resourceful. Scour Marketplace or Craigslist if you still use it. Find you something running if you want to take the chance on something you didn't hear running. That is completely up to you. 9 times out of 10, you might have to change the cam and the lifters, because typically that's the biggest issue with the Gen 3. Well, really all Chevy LS in general is lifters. But if you want to take a chance, take a chance. If you got a salvage yard or a wrecking yard or a junkyard where they're not asking insane prices like they are here where I'm at in Texas, then get you one of those. You know, maybe they have a warranty or something, but that's it, man. You can do it cheap if you want to. If you're one of those, do it. If you cheap is wrong, it's not right, whatever, buddy. I do them cheap. I drive them. It works for me. So hopefully it helps in some way, shape, or form. If you got questions, hit the comments, share, like. I really need you to subscribe. The more people that subscribe, YouTube can give me a little moolah, and we can start swapping the world. You know what I'm saying? We got to LS swap the world. But anyways, appreciate you watching. Hope it helps. If you're new here, please go back through my other videos if you got questions first, because I might have had a whole video on an answer. So I'll see you guys. Actually, I'm about to finish this Corvette up real quick, and then we will move on to the Camaro, LS swap in the Camaro. So in the meantime, go buy a sticker, a shirt, and go build something.